to Wellness helped me lose 45 pounds, and now for over 2 years, they've helped me keep that weight off. Here's their website, aplanforme.com, aplanforme.com. That's a great name for a website because there's no cookie cutter plan. Everything is designed specifically for you. No contract, no sign-up fees, and your first consultation is free at Way to Wellness.
You never know what we're up to here at The Next Round. The easiest way to stay in the know with our antics and adventures is to follow The Next Round across all social media platforms at Next Round Live on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Whether it's Dunaway sleeping in the studio, Tim and Lunsford breaking down the latest movie release, or Game Day Chronicles, we are here to keep you updated on the latest sports news while, of course, having just a little bit of fun. Follow at Next Round Live across all platforms to join in. Happy football season. At The Next Round, we strive to make our loyal listeners feel like they're a part of the action all season long. My name is Emily Grace McWhorter, and I do that by bringing you along for any given Saturday in Auburn or Tuscaloosa. From pregame warm-ups, touchdowns that make you feel a part of the play, and everything in between, our goal is to make you feel like you're inside Bryant-Denny or Jordan Hare. Follow along on our social media at Next Round Live on Instagram, X, and Facebook. Also, check out thebarnauburn.com and covercrimson.com while you're at it. Here's to fall Saturdays.
From the creators of The Next Round comes 2 new sites, covercrimson.com and thebarnauburn.com. 2 team sites with the same excitement and information-driven content that you get every day on The Next Round. Live daily shows, recorded shows, free of charge, plus premium content with insider information starting at just $1. And it's the perfect gift for the Alabama or Auburn fan in your family. Covercrimson.com or thebarnauburn.com. Sign up today.
Twin Peaks is the best in the game. Here, you're in the red zone for every college rivalry and divisional matchup all season long. I mean, where else are the scenic views as good as your view of the game? Only at Twin Peaks, the #1 sports bar.
Jim Dunaway, Lance Taylor, Ryan Brown. Live from the Birmingham Racecourse Casino Studios, The Next Round, presented by Bud Light, is on now.
On what is a cloudy day now, but it's going to clear. Tomorrow will be perfect weather inside Bryant-Denny Stadium as we go. I think the kick temperature is 66 degrees, sunshine, some breeze, maybe a little hot chocolate in the air.
Hot chocolate?
Yeah, maybe the grill's fired up early on in the afternoon for your tailgate. It's going to be a perfect Saturday in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, as Georgia comes to town to take on the Crimson Tide. The Dogs in Alabama usually playing for a trophy. This is just a regular season game. Last time that happened was 2020 during the pandemic with a limited crowd. So this will be the first time Kirby Smart has been back to Bryant-Denny Stadium as Georgia's head coach with a full 101,000 fans inside Bryant-Denny Stadium.
You know, I just talked to an Alabama fan, and he said, you know, normally I don't like coming to these games because if we lose, I get too pissed off. And I said, well, you can at least take a little comfort knowing that you can lose a game or two, and it's not nearly the deal that it once was. And so I think everybody understands this, but on the other side for Georgia, if Georgia was to absorb a loss here, and we've talked about how brutal the schedule is, and nobody talked about Georgia's schedule coming into the year because it's just Georgia. But they've still got to go to Austin, and they've still got to go to Oxford, and they've got Tennessee on that schedule. I mean, if Georgia was able to lose this game and still get to the college football playoff, that would be impressive.
Yeah, I would agree 100% with you. I was talking to a guy the other day in our building. In fact, I was in the elevator with him, and he's like, I just don't think Georgia, and I don't know who he's a fan of. It wasn't an Alabama fan. He was just, that schedule with Georgia, I don't think they can do it. I don't think they can get through and get to the playoff. I'm like, man, that just sounds crazy, but I mean, you drop this game Saturday, tomorrow, and all of a sudden you're down to a very thin margin of error.
If Georgia beats Kentucky 35-7, nobody's saying this.
I agree. I think that was part of the reason he was saying it.
And that's why I thought coming off of that weekend, going into the bye, I think it really benefits Georgia because Kirby is able to pour mouth his team for 2 weeks, and Alabama looked great in that second half, winning 42-10. So it sets up for Georgia. Now, again, the money sets up for Alabama right now the way it's being played in Las Vegas, so we'll see what happens.
We'll get to our pick 3 at the end of the show coming up. Again, we're at the Rabbit Hole, brought to you by the wonderful folks at Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. It is the taste of great football Saturdays with our friends at Bud Light. We're about to do our headlines. For those of you that are younger than 30, there used to be these things called the newspaper that used to come out every day after games with headlines of what happened the night before. So we do this thing on Friday where we try to predict the headlines from the games, the big games on Saturdays. And it's brought to you by our friends at McCurry Van and Car Rental. It's our spotlight. Tell us about McCurry before we hit the big button.
That is where you need to rent right now. You rent from McCurry. They make it. Welcome in. It is the middle eight. Another week of college football behind us. He is Brandon Marcello, CBS Sports 24/7 Sports. Finally, back in the home studio. The show presented by MyBookie.ag. I'm Ryan Brown. Welcome in, Brandon. How are you today?
Doing well. That was a heck of a Saturday.
Boy, wasn't it? Wasn't it? Where did you end up? You were not in Tuscaloosa, were you?
I was in Fayetteville, Arkansas at home.
There you go.
Because I promised my wife I'd take her to see Alan Jackson's farewell tour. And so we were at Alan Jackson Saturday night while Bama, Georgia was going on. But I was watching the game quite a bit still on my phone. So and then got home and was able to watch the replay. So got to catch up that way. So it was a great Saturday night.
How was Alan Jackson? How was Alan Jackson? Was he good?
He was great. I'm not much of a country guy, but man, free, man, like at least 10 of his songs just casually. So
yeah,
it was a lot of fun. Plus, I got to sing along to 5 o'clock somewhere, and that's always a good time.
All right, we got a lot to get to. Let's start with that game you were talking about, Bama and Georgia in Tuscaloosa. MyBookie.ag brings you the show. Don't forget, you can bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie.ag. Code NEXTROUND when you sign up. Code NEXTROUND. And they will double your initial deposit right there. That's your deposit bonus. Double the initial deposit. Code NEXTROUND at MyBookie.ag. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie.ag. So anytime these two teams meet, it's going to get attention. Normally, as was pointed out often on game day Saturday and then leading up to the game, when these two teams meet, there's a trophy on the line. There's confetti that falls. It's actually increasingly rare that you get them in the regular season, Brandon. This is normally for a lot bigger stakes than a regular season win. But, boy, I tell you what, watching that game, and for all those that said the 12-team playoff is going to ruin the regular season, that game felt every bit as intense as previous Georgia and Alabama matchups.
It was insane. I couldn't imagine actually being there in that atmosphere. This game had it all. We all know that. I mean, it just absolutely insane. To think that Georgia was on the cusp of coming back to win that game is incredible. It would have been the largest comeback in school history for Georgia, the largest comeback in any top 5 matchup ever in the history of college football. And for Alabama to pull it off the way they did late, incredible. It makes me kind of wish that this ends up being a 3-game series this year. It's the best 2 out of 3 in a lot of ways. Going to the SEC championship game, maybe a rematch in the playoff, but just absolutely incredible. And Jalen Milroe just absolutely rocketed up, in my eyes, up the Heisman Trophy list and what he was able to do. The performance was remarkable. That first half was remarkable by everybody involved on the Alabama side. I mean, Georgia, my goodness, going into this game, they've only allowed 2 explosive plays all season, plays of 20 yards or more. And Alabama had, 3 in the first 10 plays offensively? Just insane. Things you weren't expecting in a Georgia-Alabama game happened. And then in the end, it ended up being a tight game like we're so accustomed to seeing between these two. And it certainly delivered the dramatics.
You mentioned the Heisman. I mean, at halftime, Jalen Milroe actually at a lot of places in Vegas became the Heisman favorite. That was the way his first half went. I don't think anybody thought 28-0 right out of the chute was in the cards. I certainly did not.
I didn't either. I was sitting down, getting ready to watch Allen Jackson, and it was 7-0. Then it was 14-0. Then it was 21-0. I went, okay, well, I'm kind of okay with that. I'm skipping this game right now, that I didn't travel to Tuscaloosa. And then as the game kept going along, I kept checking on it on my phone, and I was like, oh, my God, I'm missing a classic. Thank goodness for the DVR.
Thank goodness for DVR. That's right.
Oh, my God. I had FOMO the entire night. But, what you talk about Jalen Milroe and some of the plays he made in this game. There's one that our buddy Cole Kublik posted up of him ducking a defender and getting out of the pocket and creating something. And he just simply said, like, how do you defend that play? You can't. That's special stuff, the things he was doing against Georgia. And I'm so glad for him that he's got an offense and a coordinator and a quarterback guru like Kalen DeBoer that's really molded this offense around him and around his strengths. And if you watch Kalen DeBoer's teams as they go along offensively at quarterback, those quarterbacks are provided more opportunities to create bigger plays and have big games. We saw it with Michael Penix last season. Jalen Milroe is going to have several more performances like this, and he's going to have several more big plays like that. And how can you not in that type of offense? And my goodness, when you have Ryan Williams on the field with you, just fascinating stuff to watch.
That's the point Kirby Smart made. So you group those together, obviously, Jalen Milroe and Ryan Williams. And Kirby, after the game, was asked, was there something special you could do for Ryan Williams? And he says, what you can't do is double him. Because if you double him, now I've removed any chance to spy Jalen Milroe. So you got to pick your poison. You're either going to spy, and this is the conflict everybody's going to face with Alabama now as Ryan Williams continues to develop. You either play him single and spy Milroe, or you double him and you hope your pass rush and your linebackers can take care of Milroe.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
You better be able to contain him with your front four there and maybe another linebacker to help out. But if you're going to bracket Ryan Williams, that's not only going to allow Milroe to maybe create, but it's going to give a receiver an open space somewhere in the field if you have more than 2.5 seconds to hold on the ball like Jalen Milroe is going to with his movement back there. If I'm Georgia, I'm very concerned after this game if there is a rematch, because last year you lost to him in the SEC championship game, but you held Milroe pretty much in check. It was one of his worst games, actually, if you look at it as far as just yards per pass attempt against air. In this game, Milroe was just a magician, and Georgia could not stop him. That Georgia defense is elite. Like, people are going to see that score, Alabama fans go, that Georgia defense is still, that's not what it was a year or two ago. It is. It legitimately is. But as I said here on the show last week, if Alabama can kind of attack the edges and attack the middle of the field, they're going to have success. They did that, but also, I mean, they hadn't faced anybody like Milroe yet, and they hadn't faced anybody most certainly like Ryan Williams. And I wrote about this today for our CBS Sports Power Rankings going up, but the sport, which has been so dominated lately about the transfer portal and veteran teams really getting it done, how about the freshmen just stealing the spotlight in college football right now? You got Ryan Williams at Bama. You got Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State. It was almost like they were duking it out at the same time on Saturday night. Incredible stuff to watch, and no one can stop either of them. These are guys that should be, like, in high school right now. Like, you shouldn't be able to do this. They shouldn't be able to do this as freshmen that were 18 or 19 years old, let alone as 17-year-olds. We're seeing something special right now with Ryan Williams and Jeremiah Smith out there. And Kirby Smart said this, and everybody else has said this. Like, they're only going to get better.
Yeah, that's scary.
Oh, my gosh. How much better can they get?
Yeah. Let me give you another, before we move on from Alabama's win over Georgia, a couple more things on that. Let me give you a stat on Jalen Milroe that I think is going to scare defensive coordinators moving forward, because this was against Georgia, okay? Georgia is one of the standards of college football, especially defensively. There are no better defensive minds than Kirby Smart out there, right? Against the blitz Saturday night from PFF College, this is from PFF College, against the blitz, Jalen Milroe, 17 of 20, 191, a touchdown, no picks. That's against the blitz, Brandon. So I don't know how eager you are to blitz this guy moving forward.
And that tells you, well, see, Georgia changed things up a little bit from the last time they played them in their attack there, trying to blitz them a little bit more. But, yeah, I mean, how do you frustrate the guy? You can't frustrate him. And that's maturity and experience also from year to year. And if Georgia can't do it, who the hell's going to do it this year?
That's right, yes. Yeah, that's the thing for the rest of college football. Now, if I'm a Georgia fan and I leave this game, it's almost like it was not upward football. Alabama won the football game. Alabama deserves to be number one. We'll see if Brandon has them there in his power ranking coming up. But if I'm a Georgia fan, I know I lost the game. But I leave there thinking my offense found tremendous rhythm in the second half in a hostile environment against a great defense. My defense made the adjustments they needed to make and limited Alabama's offense in the second half. I'm not devastated about my team, especially in a 12-team playoff world. They've got a difficult schedule remaining, but I leave Bryant-Denny Stadium not devastated about my team. I wanted to win the game, but if that score continues to hold and I lose by 20, 28 points, I look in the mirror and like, what's going on with Georgia football right now? I don't think their fans leave that game, and Kirby Smart certainly did not, if you watch him in the postgame, leave that game feeling that way.
No, and they shouldn't, but also in the back of their mind, they're thinking, I hope we don't play Alabama again.
They got an Alabama problem. It's not a Nick Saban problem anymore. It's an Alabama
not a Nick Saban problem.
Yeah.
It's an Alabama problem,
Yeah.
and I do wonder if that just absolutely affects Kirby Smart, that coaching staff, and those players going into Alabama games. Like, there's something at play here more so than just it being equal talent. They're getting out-coached right now. Something's going on there. I know it's Alabama. Goodness gracious. And Kirby Smart said it after the game when he was asked, you're 1-6. He's like, well, what's everybody else's record against them? But the problem here, Kirby, is that you were supposed to overtake Nick Saban near the end of his career. You weren't able quite to do that. Now that he's gone, he's sitting high above the field that carries his name, watching it from his suite, just with his hand over his mouth, just kind of watching everything. And the king is watching you, still unable to sit in his throne. That has got to be absolutely demoralizing to Kirby Smart when he goes to bed at night and no one gets to see his own face and look at his own dreams. That guy has ghosts. And it is not necessarily Nick Saban. It's the Alabama Crimson Tide. And when is that going to end for him? Is it ever going to end for him? I mean, as long as Bama's got equal talent, there's something else at play here that's just holding him back. And if I'm a Georgia fan, you got to be hoping you do not see Alabama in the playoff. Because if you do, you're more likely going to lose now.
Keep in mind that shot of Saban sitting in the booth just with his hand over his mouth, so cool, was when it was 30-7, right? And someone on social media, I wish I could give them credit, but it was a fantastic line, said it's like the shot of the guy that invented the atomic bomb watching it be used.
Oppenheimer?
Yeah, Oppenheimer. Yeah, it's like Oppenheimer just watching the atomic bomb be dropped. He's like, boy, I created something that was devastating, didn't I?
Yeah, he goes, I am become Kirby Smart's death.
All right, it is the middle eight. We do it every single Monday during football season. It's presented by MyBookie.ag. Code next round right now at MyBookie.ag. And they double that initial deposit. Monday Night Football tonight. You got two games. You want to play them? You can play them anywhere at MyBookie.ag. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere. Get free money right away with a double deposit bonus when you use code next round, all one word there, next round, at MyBookie.ag. Speaking of codes, we actually help you save as well on Roback. Roback.com, code TNR20 helps you save 20% off your initial order. They also bring you the middle eight. They've got great team gear, not just Alabama and Auburn, but many teams. Go see their exciting new team gear there at Roback.com. Great idea for a gift. Great idea for you on college football Saturdays. Roback.com, code TNR20, TNR20 to save 20% off your initial order at Roback.com. All right, we had a top 10 upset that I think caught a lot of people by surprise. Ole Miss and Kentucky playing in Oxford, and I will give Mark Stoops credit for this. And I've been critical about him at times. I go back and forth on Stoops. Here's maybe the best compliment I could give him. I don't know if there's a coach in America that is better at dragging you into their style of play than Mark Stoops at Kentucky.
Man, what a difference like 3 weeks make. When they got blown out by South Carolina, I'm just going, man, like at the back of my mind, I'm thinking Mark Stoops just going to hang it up after this year. Like the A&M fiasco, not getting that job, and then you go back to Kentucky and you just get dragged by South Carolina at home and the offense can't do anything. And then like the last 2 games, it's like, oh, they're back to playing Mark Stoops football. The defense is fantastic. Your quarterback's making just enough plays. And not just credit to Mark Stoops because of what they're doing defensively, but let's give some credit to that offense. They changed some things going into that game, some different formations. They got Brock Vandagriff into more of a rhythm there after struggling for most of the season, even including against Georgia just a couple of weeks ago. But the bigger indictment here, the bigger story is that Lane Kiffin has been nothing but just flash and no substance so far. I mean, at Ole Miss, yes, you could win 9-10 games. That's special there. That's incredible. But when it matters most, he's not showing up. He's not beating Bama. He's not beating Kentucky at home. Everything was set on the table, and still is set on the table for them to have a special year, to get in the playoff and make some noise. And then when they face a competent defense, they just disappear. And that's been the issue for Lane Kiffin throughout his career here at Ole Miss. He faces a competent defense and things get shut down. And we've been criticizing the schedule early on. Them and Mizzou, in a lot of ways, I think are a lot alike. But when the bright lights are on, Lane Kiffin just kind of lays a turd out there. And that's not a good thing. Now, other than Kentucky, there's one other fan base that are really excited about that result. Can you guess who it is?
Okay, one other fan base other than Kentucky fan base excited about the Ole Miss result.
Florida.
Florida.
Because now, if you lose a couple of games at Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin, the fans are kind of like, crud or whatever. Maybe Lane Kiffin goes, you know what? Maybe I can't get it done here at Ole Miss, but I can at Florida, where I can get some bigger talent there and everything. I guarantee you the Florida fans right now are going, all right, great, just working out perfectly. But, yeah, man, I'm very disappointed in that result. And you just got – I mean, Ole Miss goes down the field, scores right away, and you're just like, oh, man, they're going to boat race Kentucky. Ole Miss is clicking. And then just like after that, it was just everything was so difficult to do. They couldn't run the ball. They couldn't get things done on third down. And if you can't do that at home, what's going to happen when you go on the road? Because last year, Ole Miss, they put up a lot of points at home, and when they went on the road, no matter the opponent, they struggled offensively away from home. And that concerns me when they get into SEC play in an SEC road environment. Not a good look for the Rebels.
I was told, the difference in this Ole Miss team, and look, I mean, it wasn't just pundits saying this. Nick Saban said it. There were a lot of people that said the difference in this Ole Miss team is they finally have the defensive horses to hold up. Mm-hmm. They could not pressure Vandagriff enough. They didn't create any turnovers. There was only one turnover in the whole game, and it was on Ole Miss's side. And the most alarming thing, if I'm Ole Miss, because this is really the first even good opponent that they have faced in this schedule, first big test for their defense, and Kentucky had the ball they had the ball 20 minutes more, a full quarter more. Kentucky had the football. You could not get them off the field. And that's how you end up losing 20-17 without any turnovers, really, is you couldn't get them off the field. Kentucky just lived on offense on that. And it's not like they ran up a bunch of yards. It was standard Mark Stoops. I'll stay out there. I'll stay out there 20 minutes. We don't even get 400 yards, but I'll have it 20 minutes longer than you do.
Yeah, and much of that was what was going on in the Georgia game for them, too. I mean, just great coaching, great discipline by the players buying into the game plan. I think it's incredible what they were able to do after the way they lost that South Carolina game to keep the players believing, especially with a lot of the transfers they had there. So it's credit to the players and the coaches keeping that thing together and doing that. And Kentucky pulling off their biggest win since, 1970, something like that on the road. Just great job by them. I'm very interested to see how Kentucky continues down this path because they found their identity. But how many games in the SEC can you win, 21-14, 21-17 because their offense, maybe they can hold on to the ball, but it's still not explosive. And that's what's missing for this Kentucky team to maybe being an 8 or 9 win team this year.
And you mentioned Kentucky's path moving forward, and Lane Kiffin has found losses. They're at South Carolina this week. That is far from a gimme for them. Some of the same defensive things that Kentucky has been able to do, South Carolina has been able to do that to other teams. They just haven't necessarily had the offense to match. And then they're at LSU, who's seems like they're getting a little better every week. I mean, this is back-to-back tough weeks for Ole Miss coming off this loss.
Yeah, and I think LSU actually had a pretty good test for a similar type of offensive style that they're going to play this past weekend against South Alabama. I know no one was watching that game, but South Alabama had combined, I think, for something like 123, 127 points in their last 2 games. Major Applewhite can scheme it up and score against anybody. LSU held them to 10 points in a blowout win. And I mean, as much as we've said that LSU defense has improved, it certainly has. And Brian Kelly's going to have that team ready for a team like Ole Miss, too. They're going to be up for that game. So you're exactly right. These next 2 games for Ole Miss are going to be incredibly interesting because South Carolina has shown they can run the ball. And if you can run the ball, score points, and also keep the ball out of Ole Miss's hands offensively, you got a pretty good shot at upsetting them.
So for Kentucky, though, on the other side of that, now they obviously have the 2 losses because you mentioned they got that puzzling South Carolina loss. But they've got tough games left. They've still got to go to Tennessee. They've still got to go to Texas. They've got to play Louisville, who's one of the better ACC teams. But yet again, Mark Stoops is going to have this team, looking at a 6-6, 7-5, maybe if they can pull another one, an 8-4 type season. I guess that's pleasing to Kentucky fans still. I don't know how they feel. They're paying Mark Stoops a ton of money. I don't know if they're content with 7-5, 8-4, and going to one of the mid-tier Florida bowls anymore. I don't know where that fan base is with him.
That's a good question. I honestly don't know. And as much as I hate to say it, there's still a basketball fan base.
Well, they are.
That.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, by the time they're playing at Tennessee and at Texas, Kentucky basketball is playing North Carolina and Indiana and teams like that.
I mean, Kentucky's still got a shot here to get in the top 25 these next couple of weeks. And that should be great. That should be like your ceiling. Let's have a top 20 team at the end of the year with 8 wins. Let's do that, especially against that schedule. But, that South Carolina game was just so weird because of the turnovers and the way that thing developed. And South Carolina was just able to feast off of that. I don't think they're going to have that many games that are going to have that opportunity to do that because, as we just mentioned against Ole Miss, disciplined football, not turning the ball over, that's really what killed them against South Carolina.
All right, when we return, Oklahoma and Texas both get their first SEC wins. We'll discuss that and a shocking turn of developments down on the plains for Oklahoma. Notre Dame gets a win over Louisville. Where does that leave Louisville? The Big 12 Wheel of Destiny. We'll discuss who's leading the Big 12. And as Warden Norton said, it's just a big damn conspiracy. Miami gets a win over Virginia Tech. We'll discuss all of that with Brandon Marcello. It is the Middle Eight. It is presented by MyBookie.ag. Code next round when you sign on at MyBookie.ag. Get double your initial deposit. That's their bonus for you. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere. MyBookie.ag. Code next round to get that deposit bonus. Code next round at MyBookie.ag.
Buying that perfect home is one of the most important financial decisions you'll ever make, so it's crucial that you have the right partner to help you through the process. Hi, I'm Lisa Zeig, Vice President Mortgage Loan Officer for Bryant Bank, and I'm here to tell you that we are that partner, making it easy to buy with confidence. We offer a variety of mortgage products to fit your unique home buying situation. That kind of hassle-free approach might not be what you'd expect from a bank, but it's exactly what you can expect from us. Give me a call today or visit one of our 18 offices across the state of Alabama and let me show you what banking beyond expectation is all about.
Hey, this is Matt Roth, the franchisee of Walk On Sports Bistro in Birmingham. With the kickoff of football season, come visit us at one of our 3 locations, Stadium Trace, Greystone, or Trussville. Come enjoy our scratch kitchen menu while watching one of our 80 TVs. Whether you're looking for a pre- or post-game celebration, game day, or date night, we've got you covered. It's all about the win at Walk On Sports Bistro. Walk On, where everybody needs a little playing time.
Storm season is here. Make sure you have a plan of action in place right now. Greg from Pell City and Storm Restoration Roofing should be your first call when storms hit. Insurance companies love working with Storm Restoration Roofing because of Greg Nelson's name and reputation in the industry. When storms hit, call Greg Nelson. He's local, 205-542-3531. He's the home of the free no-cost roof inspection. Greg from Pell City on Facebook, 205-542-3531. It's Storm Restoration Roofing.
Follow Next Round Live on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. The social media team at Next Round Live is dedicated to giving you daily news conferences and practice video from UAB, Alabama, Auburn, and around college football. Follow and compare to the sites you used to visit. You'll also get the latest highlights and news from the Next Round Daily Show. Turn on the notifications so you don't miss a thing. Next Round Live on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. See more at nextroundlive.com.
By now, you guys know how I feel about my fashion. However, did you know that I care about your fashion choices? Cargo shorts are out, flip-flops are only appropriate on the boat, and please throw away that stained t-shirt from college. You may be thinking, EG, that's all I own. What do I do? Here's what you do. Go to nextround.store and fill your cart with a wardrobe that is approved by me. Stock up on logo t-shirts, hoodies for football season, and hats for every day of the week. Trust me on this one and head over to nextround.store to get stocked up for this season.
I'm here with my good friend John Lanyas of Lanyas Furniture to tell you about special values on some super comfortable seating. What you got, John?
Lance, every year we stock up on great comfort items like Lazy Boy recliners and sofas so that our customers can be ready for fall and football. This year is no different. We've made special purchases that will deliver great value to Next Round listeners and give them the most comfortable seat in the house. And as always, we've got the best prices in the state on Lazy Boy and the best selection anywhere.
That's awesome. We all know from years of shopping with you guys that Lanyas Furniture is the home for Lazy Boy value. Stop by the New York Butcher Shop and pick up the finest in certified Angus prime beef steaks and burgers, premium pork chops, ribs, and all-natural chicken cut to order just for you. Their chef-prepared entrees and side dishes are the perfect dinner-to-go choice for your family and are ready to heat at home. With a great selection of fine wines and desserts, the New York Butcher Shop is your one-stop dinner shop. 2 locations to serve you, Cahaba Heights and on Highway 119 in Greystone, the New York Butcher Shop. Rare quality, well-done service.
This hour of The Next Round is presented by the Birmingham Racecourse Casino, now featuring 7 days of giveaways with your chance to win a share of up to $125,000. The more you visit the Birmingham Racecourse Casino, the more chances you have to win.
Start your day online with our website, nextroundlive.com, for the latest videos, podcasts, and college football stories. It's also a great way to stream the show or shop in the Next Round store. Stay connected by visiting nextroundlive.com.
All right, it's the middle eight, second half of the show. Brandon Marcello, CBS Sports, 24/7 Sports. He'll give you his top 12 coming up momentarily. We'll see if Alabama jumped to number 1 for him the way they did for the Associated Press, but not for the coaches. Texas still number 1 there for the coaches. The show presented by MyBookie.ag. Code NEXTROUND when you sign on to MyBookie.ag. All one word there. They'll double that initial deposit. You make your deposit, they double that. That is free money to play with right away at MyBookie.ag. Monday Night Football tonight. You can play it. You can play anything. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere. MyBookie.ag, code next round. All right, Oklahoma, second SEC game, first SEC road game. They get to come to Auburn. That environment at Jordan-Hare was juiced again. And right out of the chute, Michael Hawkins makes that big run. And Brandon, watching that game, you were like, oh, no, Auburn is in trouble here. They've got that mobile quarterback again. The issue they've dealt with all year, Oklahoma with that defense, they've already got 7 points. This is an uphill climb for Auburn. Not really the way the game played out.
Yeah, I've been impressed by Auburn's defense, the way they were able to adjust and be able to slow them down. You also knew that Oklahoma probably wasn't going to be able to keep it up offensively. It's always that funny meme of Patrick Bateman out there that goes, yeah, great start with the scripted plays. Now let's see the unscripted plays. Just disappointing for Auburn. I mean, you're protecting the football, you're doing well, and then Peyton Thorne throws a dumb pass for an interception and pick 6. And from there, it was just, well, they're losing. You just knew it.
Yep.
Wheels had fallen off.
Yep.
And I know the Auburn fans had to feel that way too. As soon as that happened, they went, that's it. I'm not a big believer in there being football gods, but it certainly seems like there's a football god at play here working against Hugh Freeze, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, all right, you're going to talk trash about your quarterbacks and turn the ball over, and then you're going to come back a few days later and say, you know what, I got to do a better job as a coach and all that. And then sure enough, you're performing a little bit better against OU, and then pick six, and it all comes back crumbling down. No one else to say this, but despite being more talented than they were last year, Auburn is worse than they were last year. And a lot of that's coaching, in my opinion. And you don't want to hear that when you've got a guy like Hugh Freeze, who's supposed to be the Bama killer and the quarterback guru and developer, a guy who told me when he was up for the Auburn job at Liberty, you know, listen, I pride myself on being the guy that everybody says you can't win with these players. You can't win with Malik Willis coming in. You can't develop him into a great passer. And he's done that everywhere he's been. And then he goes to Auburn and goes, all right, I'm going to go get a transfer quarterback, Peyton Thorne, real quick. And then I'm going to bring in high school guys. I'm going to develop them. And we'll be able to win enough here these first couple of years to keep everybody happy. And it's just kind of cratered for him. I mean, Peyton Thorne is who he is. The difference here for Hugh Freeze is that, yeah, he brought in like a transfer like Malik Willis, but they were younger. They weren't quite what they could have been. They hadn't reached their potential. Peyton Thorne reached his potential at Michigan State when he had a Heisman Trophy finalist at running back and two great receivers and a fantastic offensive line to work behind. And he comes to Auburn, and they've had to cobble everything together up front with the offensive line. And now that they've got the good receivers there, they're still freshmen, youngsters, and the offensive line's just not very good. And, you know, when you're an average quarterback, a bad offensive line is going to make you look bad. And Auburn is what it is right now. You know, I think for the first few weeks of the season, even after that loss to Cal, we still attached the Auburn name to Auburn and said, you know what, this team is good. They're going to be better down the road, down the stretch. But if you take the name Auburn off of Auburn right now, you would just say that's a bad football team in the SEC, one of the bottom three teams in the SEC. And that's what they are.
Yeah. I don't understand. Like, I mean, people are going to blame Peyton Thorne. That was Peyton Thorne's best game at Auburn. Like, I know there was a pick six there. I get that. I don't even understand what you're throwing right there. I mean, that is on Hugh Freeze 100%. You've got an opponent that didn't even have 300 yards of total offense. Why are you afraid to run Jarquez Hunter 3 straight times, a guy that was averaging almost 6 yards a carry in that game? He only got 17 carries, and just melt as much clock as you can. By the way, Oklahoma having the ball is not a bad thing for you. Your defense is playing well. Oklahoma having the ball is okay. You don't have to possess the football in this game.
Yeah, you know, and that's the thing that's popped up a couple times already this year. It's like, why aren't they running the ball more with Hunter? Why aren't they just running the ball anyway to take a lot of that pressure off of Peyton Thorne or Hank Brown, whoever's at quarterback? I would assume that Auburn's going to stick with Peyton Thorne moving forward at this point because you are what you are. But, again, there's something at play here other than just the talent and stuff. There seems to be like a reluctance there to just lean onto what your strengths are going to be or have to be right now. But what can you do behind that offensive line? It's been a disappointment. Yeah. I mean, as much as we've put the blame on the quarterbacks and we focus on Hugh Freeze and what he's been saying, offensive line is just not getting it done, and there's no way to fix that at this point.
Yep, there's no fixing it. And now you've got a month of football away from Jordan-Hare Stadium. It does include a bye week, but it also includes road games at Missouri, at Georgia, and at Kentucky. We haven't talked much about Missouri, but you know how tough it is to go to Georgia if you're an Auburn fan. You do it every other year, and that's going to be a pissed-off Georgia team that has found now some flow in their offense. That's a bad time for Auburn to get Georgia Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, that's a loss anyway.
Yep.
And, I mean, the thing is like you're probably going to try and look for something positive there. Maybe they only lose by 10 or a touchdown, but that's not what Auburn fans want. That's not good enough. And, you know, there's a game coming up later in the year that should scare the hell out of Auburn. That's Vanderbilt.
Yeah. Diego Pavia, baby. He's already got one win in that stadium.
Yeah, and he's 2-0 against Hugh Freeze as a quarterback.
Yeah.
Both against him at Liberty and previously. And Diego can do things to you. Just ask Mizzou on the road earlier. And then also, we talk about Mizzou here, but they're on a bye week this week. I'm still not so sure how good they are. And they're about to find out going on the road against a Texas A&M team that's real feisty defensively and seemed to have finally found something at quarterback with Marcel Reed. He didn't have a great passing game against Arkansas this past week. They had a pretty good plan for him, but he's going to be much different playing at home against Mizzou.
Yeah, I actually am not certain that Missouri's not the easiest game in that 3-game stretch for Auburn.
It might be.
Just the way Kentucky plays. I mean, we've seen them play defense. They're not going to look great offensively, but the way they play defense, Auburn finding points on the road in Lexington is just going to be almost impossible, I think.
Yeah, it's like trying to run on a treadmill made out of a cheese grater. Good luck.
I've never heard that phrase. Okay. All right, so Oklahoma gets the win moving forward. I guess they're sticking with Hawkins. They struggled at quarterback, never once looked to Jackson Arnold Saturday, so it looks like it's Hawkins' deal moving forward.
Yeah, and talk about a weird situation there. I mean, Dylan Gabriel was pretty much pushed out. Yep. They won't say that, but he pretty much said he saw the writing on the wall. They wanted Jackson Arnold to be their guy, and so he left for Oregon, and Jackson Arnold lasts not even a month as a starter, and you go to Michael Hawkins, who very good quarterback, really great quarterback. But, there's something to be said about throwing a guy into the fire who's maybe not quite ready. I still don't think he's quite ready to take over that team, but they really have no other choice right now. He's the one that gives them the best opportunity. And you have seen quarterbacks in the past that get thrown out there that aren't quite ready. It actually kind of stunts their growth a little bit. And for me at OU, I'm a fan. I'm not sitting there at OU thinking, all right, we still got to win 9 games this year. I'm just thinking, let's hope we're not wasting something here with Michael Hawkins going into next year by stunting his growth a little bit, by just asking him to do a little bit of everything, things outside his own purview to help us win games.
Bye week for them before they get to the Red River, which is a game Oklahoma has owned of late, but they're going to get a Texas team that's playing pretty well. Just a quick thought on Texas over State, 35-13, Texas SEC debut. Probably Arch Manning's best game to date, 26-31, 324, 2 touchdowns, no picks. That's pretty good backup performance for Arch Manning. He's come in, he's gotten a little rhythm. You're going to go back to Quinn Ewers against Oklahoma, but boy, Texas fans have gotten to whet their appetite a little bit on what they will get to see next year once Quinn Ewers is in the NFL.
Yeah, and also, how about this? I know people look at that final score and go, well, what happened there? Well, Steve Sarkisian was rotating guys. He's keeping like a fresh roster going forward right now. And, the Arch Manning madness is about to come to an end when Quinn Ewers comes back. But how great do Texas fans have to feel that they've got 2 great quarterbacks? No one else in the country, let alone the top 10, has that luxury right now. If you get Quinn Ewers back, and let's say Quinn Ewers gets hurt again for some reason, you're going to feel pretty damn good with Arch Manning coming in. No one else in the country feels that way. Like, this has been, like, in a weird way, a blessing for the Longhorns this season, that they got an opportunity to give a few games to Arch Manning to see how he could do against everything when it's his show. And, man, in this long schedule, even if you get a first-round bye in the playoff, you just don't know what's going to happen. I mean, heck, you could have a quarterback that has to go concussion protocol, look at things for a drive or two, and what are you going to do offensively with a different quarterback? Texas does not have to worry about that at all. I think every other every other team in the country in the top 10 right now that has a chance to be in the playoff has to worry about their backup quarterback.
Penn State 21-7 over Illinois. Brett Bielema's team had played well this year. That was a dueling, like I had Georgia, Alabama on my main TV, and one of my side TVs was Penn State, Illinois. And I'm watching Georgia, Alabama, and all the excitement. Penn State, Illinois. Georgia, Alabama, Penn State, Illinois. I mean, that was just that was a yucky game. I mean, 21-7. There were not a lot of fireworks in that game, but James Franklin continues to win games against teams he's supposed to beat.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. But also, Illinois was getting at Penn State in a lot of ways to play kind of their game. Brett Bielema was really good at that, much like a Mark Stoops, as we mentioned earlier on the show. He gets you to play in the mud sometimes when he needs you to. But that's fine and well, but when you're averaging 1.1 yards per carry in a Brett Bielema offense led by Barry Lunny Jr., you're just not going to win games on the road. And that was the case here. They needed some more turnovers to be forced there. I feel pretty good about Penn State after that game. Their defense held, I think, Illinois to their lowest yard total in 3 years, which is saying something considering how not explosive that offense has been under Brett Bielema. That defense is really kind of getting things going. Ever since the second half of that Bowling Green game earlier this season, Penn State's defense has kind of circled the wagons a little bit. So I'm very, very happy for them for that respect. And Illinois, like I said, that gets you to kind of play a low-scoring game. Andy Kotelnicki, the offensive coordinator there, has done just enough. He's provided a couple tweaks here and there to that offense this year to make it a little bit more explosive and get what they got to do and be a little bit more creative. This Penn State team, I think, is their best one they've had over these last 3 to 4 years. They certainly look like a playoff team to me.
Notre Dame beat Louisville, so I guess we're back now to Notre Dame's pretty comfortable in the playoff. It's really going to come down to that USC game. I mean,
yes,
Army and Navy are having better years than normal, but I don't know they're going to beat Notre Dame.
Yeah, did you watch any of that game?
Yeah.
It was nasty, the weather, but Notre Dame still had much of the same problems in that one. Turning the ball over there, turning it back and forth over between Louisville. But Riley Leonard finally, get this, first time all season, he had more than one explosive play down the field. This was his first time he's connected on 2 passes in a game of over 20 yards. And air yards. So I don't know how to read that. I mean, apparently they were asking for the backup quarterback, the fans were, in the first half of that game still.
Yeah, I didn't have volume up, so I did not hear that part. It was no volume for me, but I did watch it. It was 31-14 going to the fourth quarter. I mean, Notre Dame was in control, but it just I don't
turnovers.
Yeah,
I mean, they're helped out by that, but I don't know how much better you can feel about Notre Dame at this point. They got to beat USC.
Yep, that's it.
They got to beat USC to get one of those lower spots in the playoff.
Yeah, I mean Stanford,
and I don't think they can do it. I don't think they can do it. I don't think they got the horses.
Yeah, Stanford at home, Georgia Tech in Atlanta, but it's neutral site at Mercedes-Benz, which means there will be more Notre Dame fans than Georgia Tech fans. Navy, Florida State, Virginia, Army, and then at USC. I mean, it's really, you don't have to
walk.
It is. You don't have to watch another Notre Dame game until November 30th when they're in the Coliseum. I mean, that's the only Notre Dame game that matters from here on.
Yep, you're exactly right. Hey, how about Army and Navy?
I know.
4-0.
I know.
And I believe they're both favored again this week.
Yeah, you had this past Saturday, Army, Navy, and Air Force all favored on the same weekend. Now, Army played a Friday night game, but all favored on the same weekend. That has not happened very often in our lifetime. I'll go ahead and tell you that.
No, and first time since 45 that Army and Navy are both 4-0. They look like they're probably both going to be 5-0. That Air Force team's very young. They get kind of sporadic play at quarterback right now, so that's going to be a good matchup for. So but yeah, like Notre Dame, it's just Notre Dame's going to be one of those teams no one's going to be talking about week to week until the USC game.
Yeah,
and they should win every game. And they might still turn the ball over 3 times a game, 4 times a game. Riley Leonard might just put up 95 yards passing, 75 yards rushing, and they're still going to win games. But they don't look like a playoff. Man, if they get into the playoff, that could be dirty.
It could be, yeah. Somebody who runs them out, yeah.
And you're going to have some pissed off group of 5 teams because we've got several playoff-worthy group of 5 teams playing right now the way they look. And someone's going to get left out among that group in favor of potentially a Notre Dame if they were to beat USC down the stretch.
By the way,
I don't know about that.
One of those group of 5 teams is UNLV, who walked Fresno right out of the stadium Saturday with a quarterback. I mean, one of the biggest stories of college football at the end of the week was their quarterback, Deuces, and he's out. UNLV goes to the backup, and he played better.
Yes.
That Sluka had played all year long. I mean, that was the best quarterback game they'd had all year.
Well, the coaches there weren't all sad
that
Matthew Sluka left. Because Barry Odom told me the week before all this happened, I was talking to him on the phone for a story, that He goes, we legitimately feel like we can win with 3 quarterbacks that we've got. 2 of them are newcomers, both from the FCS level. Sluka from Holy Cross, Haj Malik Williams from Campbell. And Haj Malik Williams played 4 years at Campbell, pretty much owns every single record that university's ever had in the passing books and rushing books. And he went out there and he put together the best game yet by a quarterback at UNLV this season. They're better offensively with him out there. And he's a guy that probably should have been starting there. I don't know what happened in the recruiting process and all that, but, listen, Sluka didn't get there till mid-June. There was all this NIL stuff and everything, and they end up starting him. So you wonder, all right, the only way we're going to be able to get him on campus is if we promise him the starting job or something like that. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there maybe. But in reality, Haj Malik Williams was much more of a winning quarterback, much more successful at Campbell, and was a guy that you could just rely on to get that offense going. He fits perfectly in that go-go offense of Brennan Marion. But they did what they needed to do to win games with Sluka. I mean, to beat Kansas, I know Kansas is probably going to finish maybe of 6 wins, maybe a little bit below this year, but to do that on the road with a quarterback who can't throw the damn ball, holy crap, it's pretty special. And hey, one of my games of the week this week it's going to be a barn burner, Brownie. It's Syracuse at UNLV.
That's a Friday night game, FS1.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
An opportunity for UNLV to beat a 3rd power conference team this season. They went on the road and blew out Houston, and Houston's terrible this year. They beat Kansas on the road. Now you're getting Syracuse to travel across the country in the middle of the season to play a group of 5 school in Vegas in Allegiant Stadium. Man, those UNLV fans are going to be riled up. That's going to be a big crowd. I think Friday night in front of a national audience, this is UNLV's opportunity to show, hey, we're not just for real, but we got something bubbling here underneath the desert sands. We got some oil. We're about to strike that liquid gold. And I'll tell you what, Barry Odom, they win that Syracuse game and they continue to go down the stretch. He's going to be up for some big jobs here potentially at the end of the year.
And Friday Night Football has provided us some excellent games. The Friday night schedule has been really good. Speaking of that, Virginia Tech was at Miami. We'll discuss that in one moment. Brandon Marcello, 24/7 Sports, CBS Sports. He joins me each week for the Middle Eight. It's presented by MyBookie.ag. Code next round when you sign on at MyBookie.ag. Get that sign-on bonus. They're going to double your initial deposit. That is free money. Play with it right away. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere. MyBookie.ag. Code next round. That is all one word. Code next round at MyBookie.ag. Also, Roback.com. Code TNR20. TNR20. Get you 20% off your initial order. Great game day polos, team gear, great golf polos. Their hoodies are the softest you'll find anywhere. Roback.com. Code TNR20 for 20% off your initial order. So Virginia Tech Miami was a wild game to begin with, but then it comes down to the final play there at Hard Rock Stadium. A Hail Mary that is bobbled around. Miami celebrates. The cameras follow the celebration. Then all of a sudden the officials say, nope, that's touchdown Virginia Tech. And now the ACC's got a big old fat mess on their hands. It has to go to replay. This is one of those weird things, Brandon, where I don't think anybody caught the ball, but I also couldn't find anything on replay that said nobody caught the ball. Yet they overrule it. They give Miami the win, and automatically everybody says, look at the ACC protecting one of their teams.
Yeah, one, it took them forever to figure out, to call it on the field as a touchdown, which I don't know how you on the field in live action you call it a touchdown if there's that much confusion.
Right. Agreed.
And then to be let alone go back to the tape and be able to have enough evidence to overturn it. I got questions about that. Their explanation is good enough after the fact where they said, listen, there was a Miami player down on the ground out of bounds. He touched the ball while it was being bobbled. That means it's an incomplete pass. That's fine to say that. But were we really able to determine that on the tape after calling a touchdown on the field? I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know.
It's something maybe in the back of their heads going, we got to protect Miami. Maybe I don't know. That's always something maybe potentially at play. But, Virginia Tech to be in control for most of that game, up double digits going in the fourth quarter, and Brent Pry loses yet another, one possession game. He's 1-10 at Virginia Tech in one possession games. And yet again, just a disappointing start to the season for the Hokies. But credit to Miami. for being able to win that game, storm back the way they did. Cam Ward had 3 turnovers in that game, and yet they still won. I mean, they don't win that game if Cam Ward's not the quarterback. I mean, you had 2 coaches there that were just – that's been their ridicule for the last 2-3 years. It's like they just can't win these close games. They're making the coaching mistakes and everything, their team or whatever. But Miami stormed back, were able to win that game because of Cam Ward, in spite of Cam Ward turning the ball over as much as he did. And listen, all great teams at some point in the season needs a lucky break. And Miami got theirs. They just better hope that they're not counting on another one down the stretch, because I'm not so sure that they'll be able to get that and live like that.
All right, we got about 90 seconds left, so I have squeezed way too much in here, but we got to get to the big the top 12 from Brandon Marcello. His CBS Sports Power Poll. Here is his top 12. Did Alabama do enough to jump to number 1? Brandon, you say yes. Alabama 1, Texas 2, Ohio State 3, and Tennessee 4. You don't penalize Georgia too much, and I don't think you should have. They're all the way down to number 5. So we'll start there. Alabama moved to number 1. In the old record business, they would say number 1 with a bullet. Is it a definitive number 1 for you, or was it tight between them and Texas?
I was waffling a little bit between Texas, but listen, Alabama's got the stronger resume. That win for Texas at Michigan really stands out. But Bama was able to go on the road in the Big Ten and not just beat Wisconsin, but blow them out and be dominant in doing so. And then you beat Georgia, who I had number 1 in my poll, my rankings, going into this past week. So those 2 wins, beating the number 1 team, that's enough for Alabama to eke out Texas. And, of course, later down the road, we'll be able to see if that matters head-to-head potentially. But just a special game for Alabama to be able to do what they did and just bludgeoning Georgia early and then hanging on. And I didn't mention this early in the show, but it does bother me that Alabama is very inconsistent during stretches of the game this season. USF, for example, and then it showed up again against Georgia the second half. And they didn't make a lot of really good adjustments in the second half against Georgia's adjustments. I do think that Bama was outcoached in the second half. When it came to game preparation, Kalen DeBoer and them beat out Kirby, and that was enough. But the adjustments in real time, big questions there. I still think that Bama's got some weaknesses defensively in that secondary that can be taken advantage of. But for now, I do have Alabama number 1. And I said last week, I know I was getting a lot of crud for having them 7th in my poll, but I said they beat Georgia, they're going to rock it up there.
Yeah.
They had the opportunity. I did have issues with them, and they did pop up again, but man, they were just absolutely still a perfect game in the first half. So listen, Alabama has not reached their ceiling right now and what they can be at the end of the year.
All right,
that's scary.
He is Brandon Marcello. Follow him on social media at bmarcello. 24/7 Sports, CBS Sports. It's the middle 8. Brandon, have a nice week. We'll see you next Monday. All right, it's presented by mybookie.ag. Code next round. Next round is next.